back.
We are back. Welcome to the Teachers Pep Rally. I am so excited. We are so excited to share the conversation with our special guests, who are a combination of, I kind of made a list of creators, authors, speakers, data nerds, and leaders in technology and education industry. So we have Dr. Marnie Stockman and Nick Coniglio. And I'm so excited you're here. So I'm going to use my Roy Kent whistle. Tweet, tweet, tweet. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
We're happy to be here.
I haven't been whistled at for a while, so that's excellent.
Whistle. So I have a question for you all as you kind of, let us know a little bit about you all. So Marnie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I started out as a high school math teacher, and I've landed in business. So as I'm doing business presentations, I always say that means I sold pre-calculus to 16-year-olds. So I know something about sales and customer success. So I did that, and then I became the math supervisor of my school district. I'd been an assistant principal, and then I became the accountability coordinator, where I was working with an ed tech platform, the assessment platform. And at some point I was such, I will either say a passionate advocate for the software or a pain in their behind that they thought I should come run customer success for them. So that is how I met Nick, as he already worked in that company. And for the record, absolutely eye rolled when they found out that they hired me. And then we worked there. He was VP of all kinds of things, including customer support, and I was over success. We got acquired until we were working for the Rupert Manions of the world. And for non-Ted Lasso fans, that's not a good thing. And although we only think there are two types of people in the world, people who love Ted Lasso and people who haven't seen it. So, but then Nick, I can remember the day, was like, you know what? We know like that the acquisitions caused us to learn some things, and we should start a company. So we did. So I'll let Nick take it from there.
Wow. So that's perfect. Yeah, I am Nick Coniglio, and I've been in technology my whole life. I started out as a programmer, worked in a small little room of 5 people writing COBOL code against a mainframe.
Speaking Fred's language.
Yeah.
It's music to my ears.
Yeah. And, I was introverted, so it was kind of the perfect environment for me. And then at some point I got the opportunity, I got convinced to really kind of broaden my horizons a little bit. I ended up going into a consulting company around business intelligence and data warehousing. And that was kind of the starting point of where I really started to grow from a professional standpoint. I had a knack for being like employee number between 5 and 10 of really small startup companies. And we ultimately grew 2-3 companies, the third of which was Marnie's, to significant scale and exited. So I would say it's funny. I Lead It Like Lasso is a leadership book, and I was a horrible leader when I first started out my career, but I constantly got promoted and got put in those types of positions. And it wasn't until really mid to later in my career where I really started to value the whole concept of servant leadership as opposed to command and control type leadership. But that's it. Then Marnie and I, we got stuck in that situation where we had that major clash of core values where, there was such a focus on increased sales, but at the same time, where they were preaching raving fans, they were kind of pulling all support from customer success and data and customer support, which I ran. And Marnie and I had to come up with an operating framework to figure that out. And we believed so much in that operating framework that we decided to go out on our own, start a business. We did that right before COVID hit in 2019. And within 3 years, we started that business, scaled it to a multi-million-dollar business, and we exited just over a year ago. And we decided to write about it. So that's the book, and that's where we came from.
Wow, what an introduction! So we are with some really smart people. Was the line that I got from that, and people who are really exciting to kind of talk to, whether you're in the education world, an entrepreneur, technology, all these things. I think it's a perfect fit That's how Marnie and I kind of started talking, and you were talking to me about your book, and I've actually got a copy.
Nice. Thank you.
That's a great cover.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Oh, thank you.
Great cover.
So we are going to be talking a lot about leadership, which I think it doesn't matter what profession you're in. It's something we should always be talking about, always evaluating, always looking at. And I think, Nick, just for you, in a very brief moment, you basically already have an evaluation of yourself, I can tell, of where you were maybe at a certain phase in the beginning and to where you are now. And I think that's great that you're able to identify that, see growth, see change. Obviously rethinking the way that you lead with different small to large groups is always important. And that's what you pretty much have done with this book. So tell me how this happened. How did the It Like Lasso happen? Were you both envision you both watching it, eating popcorn, and all of a sudden texting each other saying
she knows us, but that's not quite how it started.
Yeah. So I come from a soccer household, right? And yes, Atlanta United, go Atlanta United.
Go United.
And we started watching the show as a way to bond with, at the time, my teenage son, who played all sorts of travel soccer. And I was watching it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, I know Ted Lasso, and I've happened to work with her for the last couple of years. Just his kindness, his positivity, but the thing that got me was, his belief that, working to make everybody the best versions of themselves. And I think the first week I met Marnie, she told me that. I was like, yeah, whatever. Everybody says that, but years and years of working with her, that's truly who she was. So I went out on a limb. I had recommended one other show to her in my life, and it was Game of Thrones. And it didn't go well. I won't even go where Marnie went with that, but that lasted maybe one or two episodes. But I went out on a limb and I said, okay, you have to watch this show. And she did, and I think she realized how good she was, and that she was really the Ted Lasso of this world. So, well,
he's super kind and humble, as he's a great combo platter of some of the other characters, which we'll share when we go through the assessment. But when he said to watch, of course, at that point, like my husband and I just completely binge watched all of it. I think that was after season 2. So by the time season 3 came along, we were in lockstep. But as season 3 came along, that's the exact same time we sold our company. So as the last season aired, we were exiting our company and trying to decide what to do next. And I was listening to the book, 10X is easier than 2X. So how do you...
I'm doing that now.
Oh, it's a really good way to think about it. And Nick and I were actually at the Atlanta airport, and we pointed to the Hudson bookseller and said, if we could put a book there, that would be 10X. And Pete, that is why we went with this color. We're like, cover, it needs to be bold with the mustache, etc. But we thought Ted Lasso is so relatable. And to your point, Aaron, it's not just about whether you're in a small company or a large company. Every individual, every student, every parent, every coach, every teacher, every business owner has to learn to lead themselves and know where they are and where they want to be. And in 1992, when I was interviewing for my first teaching job, when they asked me my philosophy of education, I said, it's to help every student become the best version of themselves. So we felt like the relatableness of Ted Lasso made the framework that we had built really consumable. And so many folks were asking us, like, all right, how did you get that success in 3 years? We thought this was the natural way to write about it.
That's awesome. And there is so much good stuff in here. So for this conversation, whether you're watching it on YouTube, you're here with us live, or you go and you listen when it is dropped into all your different streaming platforms, we're only I can't believe this, because my concern is, how am I going to get this all in about an hour, right? But I think that we're going to kind of touch on some little things that are in this book, because it really is one of those things, at least I found, where you could read it front to back, right? Or you could even just at certain points just pick it up and read a chapter. And I'm telling you, when there was already 3 or 4 things just in a chapter that I was like, I've got to do this. This is perfect. Like, I'm not kidding. So if you're okay with it, what I thought we could do, and Fred, I sent some slides. I just pulled, there's 11 rules, right? At the beginning. Do you want to talk a little bit about how it's set up so that I don't kind of ruin that? But I'd love for us to kind of highlight. I picked like 3 rules for us to kind of look at.
Perfect.
Pull it up now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we have the rules section, the player section, the training, and the game. So because, again, we're following Ted Lasso in his coaching, we wanted to sort of play off on what it would be like as a coach. So you've got the rules of the game, the players, and then in England, as Ted was learning all of the England terminology, practice is training. And then the game is where you put it into practice in real life.
That's awesome. All right. So this one I really love. This is rule number 2. Don't be a seagull. So can you explain a little bit about this rule to us?
Oh yeah, we can. And you know, I've probably been guilty of being a seagull myself. But the whole notion is, you know, sometimes a leader might come in, swoop in to the office, you know, crap on everything and just let everybody clean up your mess, right? I think early on, I mentioned early on in my career, I had a tendency to come to kind of dump problems on people. Why? Because I could, right? Sure. And I wasn't intentional about that, but just in a position of leadership. And we saw this quite a bit. We worked with a lot of small to medium-sized businesses that were owner-led from a sales standpoint, and they would often talk to this and talk about it. The fact that they would just go on site to a client meeting, come back, just level all the problems out on their team, distract them from everything else that they were supposed to be working on, and then just go ahead and leave. So it's really something that we try to, as leaders, avoid, you know, with the folks on our team. But it's something that we felt like you always had to be aware of. And it was a rule that we lived by. If we ever saw any of us, you know, kind of acting in that behavior, this was a free check to go ahead and call that out on people.
Yeah. And so we're huge Disney fans. So it also reminded me of Finding Nemo, right? When you think of the seagulls and they're like, mine, right? It's all about them, not about the team.
Not about the bigger, yeah.
Right. And so I love that there's this, you know, the line at the bottom that's kind of going across as emotional intelligence, right? Being aware of who you're working with, getting to know your team, seeing greatness or positivity in them, even if maybe they don't recognize that.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Disney because Walt Disney has been written about tons of times in leadership books, and he was what's known as a visionary, but no execution capability. And he could easily be a seagull. And I heard one description of him where his assistant said, he comes in with so many ideas, you just have to put them in a drawer. And then when he comes back for the 5th time with the same idea, you then have to go make that idea happen because he was just the idea man.
Right.
That's awesome. Pete,
you got to read the room.
Yeah, you got to read the room, right? And I'm sitting here thinking like, oh my gosh, there's so many schools situations I've been in with leaders there, whether it's a department chair, an assistant principal, a principal, you know, or even in the district level where you just see that happen. And then you can, Marnie and Nick, like you can feel in the room when that person leaves. And it's like, there's like a weird pause because everyone's like, what the heck?
Yeah. Are we doing that?
Yeah.
And there's a tension, right? There's almost a tension of just like, okay, what are we supposed to do here?
Yep.
You know, Pete, you just said something really that was a topic of conversation this past week. So Marnie and Nick, I teach at Penn State University, but we're getting ready to brace for what's coming to us next fall. And that's the freshman high school COVID class.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And the one thing, though, that we've been noticing is that they lack the inability to read the room. That's been actually a common thing that we've all been sharing over this because we're coming to the end of the year now. It's the thing we don't see. So we're now taking big steps to kind of weave in some of this stuff directly and indirectly in the classroom. So it's really a timely topic too for us.
I think too, Fred, if you think about it in the school level, you've got students like I know in English language arts, there was a a speaking and collaborative part of the standard. And so if you're working in a group, you have leaders, even in students that are working in the classroom, they need to be able to make sure they're not being the seagulls either, right? That
Right.
group work is something where maybe someone is taking the lead, or they're rotating that lead, or people jump in where they're most needed, or fit their skill set, right? But that it's not just giving an idea and then getting frustrated because no one's doing
Right.
that.
Why
That's
didn't you
not-
all implement my great idea?
Right,
Yes.
exactly. That's my frustration. So I just really love this rule. Again, like I said, we're just kind of scratching the surface a little bit on some of them. We won't go through all of them, but that was a great explanation. Fred, let's show another one.
Should we go? Slide 2.
Rule number 4, onward, forward.
Yeah. So I put in there that thank goodness that Ted gave us this phrase, because I usually say don't perseverate, which people then just mock me for saying perseverate, right? You get really stuck. So you have to take some action to not look back, but to look ahead. Nick always laughs and says, I'm not a revisionist, right? I don't go back and wish, woulda, coulda, shoulda, because I don't want to be a victim to my past, but it is facts. And so we need to move forward, right? Find a way to, mockingly build a bridge and get over it. So you really need to find a way to move forward in a positive direction. That's kind of my take on that one. Nick, you want to disagree?
I agree completely. I seem to have this conversation. My son goes to the University of Georgia, and he talks about, I went down for this interview for this internship, and this interview didn't go well. Maybe it went okay. And I constantly talk about onward, forward. But a lot of times I key on the fact that if it's a mistake, right? Mistakes happen. And the most important thing that you can do for mistakes is acknowledge it, learn from it, and move on. And I hope I'm not restating what you just said, Marnie, but the whole moving on is such a big piece of it. And I know in the show, Ted Lasso, he uses this line on a number of occasions, and it's always so timely because somebody just made a mistake. Okay, let's learn from it and let's move on. And it's really something that's healthy to live by from our perspective, and that's why it's one of our rules.
Yeah, a couple things. One, I have a professor that I had when I got my master's in teaching, and Dr. Zoss. She's actually been on the show and has been a great mentor to me. And her signature for her email right above her name is onward. It's
Nice.
always onward. And
I like that.
It's very cool. And she's done that. I mean, I can't remember when I got my master's, but I mean, it's been a long time, and she still has that. So and you see that all the time. And so as a student, it created a mindset for me, why does she keep saying onward? Why is this so important? So much so that it's in her signature, right?
That's excellent. Yeah.
And I think that that's true. We got to keep moving forward. We got to, get up. If you need a moment, take a knee, fine, but brush it off and keep going, because that's just part of life. And I'm thinking more and more too, Fred, of students and how much this probably between you and some of our other friends in higher education, especially these lessons, these rules feel really fitting. It's because for us, some of them were kind of ingrained or taught us, but I feel like there is a gap in some of our students that might need some of this.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. There are ways to do this, and we have to. I think what's happening now is we're much more mindful, and it doesn't matter what discipline you are. Nick, you and I share the tech background, and the tech back in the day in the 80s and 90s, like we were so far from the arts, it wasn't even funny. I mean, and now everything is far more integrated. And so now whether your discipline is in the tech side, the art side, we're watching these things, and we're definitely, more aware of it. And then now we're trying to figure out how do we weave it in, because there was a time when there would be walls put up. Oh, that doesn't belong in my classroom because that's not within my, subject matter. But that's starting to change, and that's good. But at the same time, it's a great reminder too, though, for those of us that are delivering it. I think it's important for those that are receiving this message, but because we're encountering these barriers as we're teaching it a little bit more, I think, than we thought we would have when we got as we move along, but we're seeing it, and that's just a great reminder, onward, upward, forward. As I looked at that slide before you all came in, when I loaded these all up, there was a running chant that we would do in the Marine Corps, and it would be, over the hill, under the hill, through the hill, around the hill. No matter what, it was always onto the other side. So it was. That's what this reminds me of. Yeah.
So for us Ted Lasso nerds, what would be a good example in the series that you think was a lesson about moving forward, onward?
Well, a couple come to mind. Of course, to be a goldfish, right? That is naturally the okay, you got to have a short memory and get over it. And another one certainly is when Rebecca apologizes to him for wanting to sabotage the whole thing. And he forgives her, right? And then okay, we need to move forward. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, Sam's dad, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't fight back, fight forward. That was a little bit of a different quote, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's the same concept for sure. And then of course Ted just moving on with his life, right? And he had some personal issues that, for those that haven't seen the show, it's a big part of the first season, especially. But he is committed to just moving on and letting go of some things.
We've got all the Thomases in the audience.
Yeah, they're
Awesome. Welcome, Thomases.
I know the Thomases.
That's awesome. Yeah, when the assistant coach moves on to the club for me. Yeah, I think this to me resonates with a lot of the theming throughout the series. So many opportunities and to also see when they can't do it. Like I'm thinking about Nate, right? Like I feel like that was a struggle for him.
Yeah.
However you want to analyze it, but sometimes it was so painful to watch.
Yeah.
Because you kept saying, "Oh my God, you got to just move, you got to move on. You got to let that go. You got to move forward."
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, around the themes of the show, right? A lot of people who have been hesitant to watch the show think it's about soccer, but it's about relationships. It's about personal growth. It's about, the power of positivity and really redemption. And if for those that haven't seen the show, I highly suggest that you give it a shot, because it teaches us so many lessons that you will absolutely be able to relate to.
Yeah,
That's
for
very
sure.
cool.
All right, I think there might be one more, Fred, of the rules. Yeah, rule 8. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Oh, this one, I think perfection can be debilitating, right? And it is a way to procrastinate, frankly. So this is sort of a corollary to our defeat the blank page one. And it is, you've got to start now. Remember, this isn't just a leadership book for the teacher in the room or the principal or the business owner. Every individual, again, needs to lead their life. It's about personal leadership. So you can't let taking the next step stop you from making progress. So do the next thing and do it now.
Yeah. I could talk about this for hours. First of all, let's take it on with the student perspective. I think a long time ago when rubrics started coming out to show students here's the grade you would get if you do X, Y, or Z. I never was a huge fan of them. I would provide them if needed, but I was never a huge fan of them because it just felt like the students that really craved that or needed it was because they were trying to be perfect. And I wanted to give them space to grow, to learn.
Yeah.
To surprise me, right? So you got innovation on here, right? I might be asking you to do this, but you might actually surprise me in doing it another way and totally blow my mind, right?
Yep.
So I just love this for so many reasons with the student perspective and the leadership role. I think it takes a lot for a leader to stand up and say, it's okay if you don't get it all right or any of it right the first time, right? But that we work towards whatever the goal is, right? You say, never stop noodling, never stop tinkering, never, right, Fred? Never stop playing around.
Yeah.
Take those risks. And then to have a leader, I think even more important, maybe, and this is something I've done in my past when I was leading teams, I was like, if this fails, if this is what you're worried about, I will take ownership of that.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, I will take ownership of that. That's a big
Yeah,
one.
and this kind of follows suit with the MVP approach, right? The minimum viable product.
Agile development, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it has that ability. Like, you're not looking for the perfect thing right out of the gate. You got to find out, first of all, is the proof of concept worthy of pursuing? And that's another mindset shift altogether. Well, I mean, I think it's working a lot easier these days, but it's definitely tied into that. But I love that one. I love the noodling part, though.
The iterations, all those things. Yeah, because if you're no one can be perfect right off the bat, and if they are, it's plain luck, right? Bringing Ted Lasso in, I'm thinking about Jamie Tart, right? The very beginning. I think it's Roy Kent that said to him, "You know, God kissed that golden foot."
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean just because you could be near perfect on the field, you're not. And it goes again to the seagull thing. See, so I'm making the connections. It can't also just be about you, Jamie. It's about the team and how well you work with the team. So all these rules, I think, kind of play on each other. So those were just 3 of them that we highlighted, but I thought, they're all really good ones, but I just wanted to give people an opportunity to kind of see the types of things that are in here, and you go more in depth of all of this, obviously, but I didn't want to share it. I want people to get the book. Okay. So if you guys are ready, so Fred, if you could stop sharing, I gave you all some homework, and Marnie and Nick,
I appreciate that.
if you can help us out. So in the book, you have a leadership assessment, leveling up with Lasso.
Yes.
And so we answered some questions on our own. We don't know what each other's answers are. And then we tally it up. And ideally, you have your results. You have 2
that are stronger. Yeah.
kind of your spirit characters.
Yes.
And spoiler alert, I had 1, but it was so strong. I was like, okay, I'm good. Obviously, it's this one. So that's okay, right? That's why you do these things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what I was thinking is we would each share which character we got. And then if you could kind of walk us through or let's talk it out a little bit. And even kind of model a little bit what people could do, when they do this assessment. And by the way, this one is free on your website.
It is. Yeah.
It is. Yep.
Yeah. All the resources, no email required.
Yes, these are awesome. All right, Pete, I'm dying to know what you got.
So I had tallies in each box, right? We had 5 choices.
Yeah.
And I had 4 in A and 3 in C. So Mr. Lasso was my first one.
Totally.
And then Keely. I looked up. Keely Jones was my second one.
Yeah, excellent. So Ted is the positivity guru, right? So he is very optimistic, and he is all about helping everybody become the best version of themselves and really seeing the individuals to help build the team. So correct me if I'm wrong. In the land of a band, you really need, like, the whole level of the band rises when each individual rises along, but you also have to listen to each other in order to be able to get better. And then Keely, she is the creative one. Now she's an optimist. Nope, not optimistic achiever. What was her
supportive
name?
Collaborator.
Oh yes, supportive
I believe
collaborator.
what we call it, Keely. Yes.
That kind of subs me up.
She's really good. Are you good with connections, Pete? Are you really good with
I
relationships?
hope so. You have to ask Aaron and Fred. I hope so.
Yeah, I would say that's an easy yes.
It's the Ted Lasso one, like hands down. Even just the way, Pete, if any one of us calls you, and we do sometimes, or you sometimes just reach out, if we haven't reached out to you, but something's going on with one of us, he's just always that kind word, quick little inspiration. Let me know if you need anything. Like, the only thing he's missing is the big mustache.
Working on it.
Perfect. Well, it seems like that was a good fit then.
Yeah.
That was a great fit.
How are you, Pete, with like assertiveness? Or are you assertive?
So I'm in a different leadership role now. We've become a nonprofit, and it's a whole new world. And there has been times I've had to really speak up in the last couple months and say, guys, this is the direction we're going. No, I'm in the driver's seat on this, and you guys got to trust me on it. So when the chips are down and it's like, okay, everybody's looking, who's got the answer, who's doing it, I will step up and be like, this is how it's got to be, guys. You got to trust me on it. Let's go.
Okay.
It takes a bit to get me there, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, but we see a lot of
has to
times
bubble
with
up.
with the Ted Lasso profile. That's something that is sometimes a struggle because you're so optimistic and positive and inspiring. Sometimes it's a little hard to be assertive with that same personality type.
That's me.
But at the same time, don't take your kindness for weakness, right? Like know your
exactly.
boundaries and
Right.
and follow through with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you guys.
That's really good. All right. How about you, Fred?
So these tests freak me out. You know what it is. Even though I am not a diehard yet of the show yet. Because you talked me into it. I got to see it. I felt myself steering. It's
I want to select. Yeah, like I know the teacher wants me to put this answer down.
Yeah, exactly, right. So I ended up tying.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
and I tied. I took it at 2 different times of the day, actually, and they both came in the same, which I guess
That's a
would,
good
right?
sign. A little validity and reliability.
Well, I don't know. I hope
like
it's because I don't know how you categorize these 2 people. So you're going to tell me the same.
Yeah.
So I came up with Rebecca and Sam tied.
Oh, great.
Okay.
So Rebecca is the visionary transformer. So very much she learned to be servant leadership. Now, fair warning, this will be a spoiler for you. Not in the first episode, she wasn't.
Yeah.
Right.
But we grew to see her as a visionary transformer. So very much strategy, having a plan and creating the tactics to get there. And then Sam is the optimistic achiever. Sam is a nice human who really appreciates community. And is also, he was a little down at the beginning because he really was a high achiever. And there was concern when he wasn't achieving at that high level. Nick, what am I forgetting about him?
No, I think you got it all. And I think what's interesting about it is they are very compatible skill sets, right? And attributes. Whereas the Sams usually need to be a little more assertive and strategic in their thinking. Rebecca is really accounts for that.
Has that.
So
Yeah.
you are very well rounded, Fred. You must be in technology.
I'm happy now.
Yeah.
While we're talking about it, I do have the graphic. If this would help those that are watching it, and I'm going to put that up on the stage there.
Oh, there we go.
Excellent. So for those who aren't familiar, Pete, you were Ted, who's top left, and then Keely right below. And then Fred, you were Rebecca, again, third at the top, and then Sam is second on the second row.
Yes.
Very and cool. It's interesting that you all said about community. I would even say with Sam, a nostalgia or appreciation for home and culture.
Absolutely.
And all of that is so Fred.
So Fred.
Oh boy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Nice.
Myers-Briggs, watch out. We've got
Let's do this.
All right, Aaron, who are you?
So mine, I'm telling you, I was like, what? Really at first was like, I did not think that this was the person. And I really am, it was one, and I'm okay with that because, and I'll tell you, so I'm Keely. I got Keely like.
Okay. I thought you were going to say Roy Kent. Okay, Roy the Keely.
Yeah, no, glaring Keely. Then it was just, I was not Roy at all. Like
just smatterings of other things.
And then, like 2 here, 2 here, 2 there. But so when I say, but I had 6 for the points that would be Keely. So I was like, obviously
Keely on all of them. Excellent. Yeah. So the supportive collaborator, right? Pro team. She was also creative, right? So she's the one that I think transitioned and grew with Rebecca as a mentor. I am curious if you see any of the mentoring that you have done with others or for yourself, because I think that was a part of Keely along the way.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought of that. Yes, that's a huge part. Like a huge part of my life. I mean, outside my stuff is mentoring teachers and educators, teaching them how to take risks. Right? Like all this. This is my jam.
Yeah.
My absolute favorite thing I used to do. I was a mentor for student teachers for years.
Oh,
and they'd be in the classroom. That was it. And funny enough, right now I'm a mentor for a young man in high school who's just needs a little extra support because he doesn't quite get all that he needs at home. And so, yeah, when you say mentorship, that's hands down so important to me. So
Well, I think of all of the other things that Keely did well, but one of my favorite parts of her is she was always honest, not Roy Kent brutally honest with the headbutt, but she was willing to say when Rebecca was like, oh, it's a little prickly. She's like, well, you are a little prickly. Like it was just to be a good mentor and a diamond dog, which if for the record is the group of people that support you and are willing to tell you the honest truth, right? She's really good at that because she is kind and honest. And I know that you're a Brene Brown fan, and clear is kind, right? And that's important. So I think that Keely one is a great one.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. Yeah. It was, like I said, it was amazing. I even had family do it. I was like, you got to do this. And theirs was hands down. We even had a Roy Kent. And I'm like, yes.
Yes, you are.
So this is a really fun thing to do. And it real quickly, Marnie, I know that you saw, so years ago, I wrote a blog about, I started thinking about how we have all these devices, and when you buy them, you get an instruction manual. And I thought, I have all these instruction manuals on things and how to fix it if there's a problem, or how to get it going, how to utilize it the best, but we don't do that as human beings. And I thought, that's insane. So I wrote about, a lesson plan to work with students or with staff to create a lesson plan or an instruction manual, so that you can help people. And then you all went even a step further. In the book, you talk about, I think it was Ted Lasso that referenced it, right? He was trying to figure out Jamie's
operating instructions. Yeah.
Yes. So I love that, because I feel like this is something that could get people talking and figuring that out as well, or even learning from each other, right? Like, as you were telling Pete and Fred about their characters, the three of us were like, oh my God, that is so this person.
Yeah.
And we feel like it's such a gap as well, right? I mean, if you look at LinkedIn, it's your resume and line items, what have you. Do you really know the person? Do you know what motivates them? Do you know what demotivates them, what their hobbies and interests are? Because, again, we also mentor people, right? And, the most common thing we see a lot of times in the at least in the business world, is that there's that disconnect between who you actually are and what you're actually doing. And, I think the first part of the whole process to figure that out is self-reflection. Let's document what Nick's operating instructions are, what Marnie's operating instructions are, map that to what you're actually doing. And what seems so obvious and simple, as you discuss it, I don't think enough people do that. And I think it only leads to anxiety and stress and things like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Pete, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Fred.
No, you're right. Sorry, you're right there. Go.
Marnie and Nick, I'm curious. I'm assuming you guys have taken the assessment. Where do you guys lie in all this? Where do you fall with this assessment?
So I am a Ted and Rebecca combo platter, which
Shocker.
surprises 0.0 people in my world.
I feel like I'm a little embarrassed to say that. I'm Roy Kent dominant.
There we go.
And it's kind of, it's dead on. I had sprinkles of others as well. I had some Keely in there, which I thought was weird, but it really talks to, when you map it to some of the things we talk about. Yeah, I'm not great. I'm not a connector. I don't build. I don't seek. I'm an introvert, right? So I don't really go out and seek strong relationships. And at times I could lack empathy with some constructive criticism. But I think, we talk about the notion of diamond dogs or challenge networks, right? It's okay. Do I want to get better at some of my areas for growth? And if I do, I need people to hold me accountable to do that. So it's seeking out. Marnie and I we talk about as diamond dogs, but personal board of advisors. Where do you need to fill in the gaps to improve as a person? And that's something we get into with a little detail in the book.
And we didn't add all the characters of the book because it didn't need to be a 900-page book, but he's also got a solid chunk of Trent Krim, who is great with asking questions and thinking again. And if you haven't read Adam Grant's book, Think Again, I put it on the highly recommend. Like, Nick is absolutely that. human that has new insight, a new way to think about something. Coach Beard, in like, he may be quiet in a whole meeting, but if he says something, you're like, oh yeah, that's what we needed to be thinking about, and makes for a fantastic diamond dog.
That's
Very cool.
awesome. And that's one of my favorite books. I read that last year. And I think, and especially in education, we have got to get off of doing things just because it's the way we've always done them.
Gosh,
And
yes.
that book,
Yeah.
that gets
Yeah.
spelled out. So there's two things. One is you all mention books in here often. You give
Yes.
a lot of references for books. And I absolutely love that. The other end of it, Nick, I think we all know a Roy, like we all do. And we all know that there's a soft little gooey center in the
Somewhere in
center,
there. Yeah.
right? It's in there. And when you are able to get your Roy Kent in your life to smirk,
It's the best.
you just know that you got them a little. Oh, it is, Marnie. It is the best because the bar is high, and that's okay for us to try to reach that. Like, keep setting that bar high is my thought. All right, so I want to be value over time. We usually play a little bit of a game or like just something to kind of just think about or share. Do you guys have a little bit more time to play a game that I created that Fred and Pete don't even know about? I do this to them.
I'm
I was
always
gonna say,
in for a
Brett's
game.
upload something. I'm looking for it.
Brett's
Okay,
like, I
awesome.
don't have any more slides.
Like, where does that go?
So Fred, the slides that I had sent you that you had up, are there a few more there?
Yeah.
He's nervous to put them up.
I know. He's like, I
So the ones.
It's the last one I sent you because I said I attached it.
Hold on. Give me one moment.
So
While
why
he pulls that up, I will say we were talking about the instruction manual for folks. On our website, we do have the blank personal operating system, which is the manual where you can fill in the blank for yourself. And we did that with our team. It made a huge difference when we started sharing that. I'm all about making preemptive strikes. My mom would say, if you don't set an expectation, nobody's going to reach it. But if you let them know ahead of time what to expect, they're more likely to hit your target. So we use both the personal communication guide, the personal operating system and the communication guide in the company. And when we did that and we had our employees fill out the same things, it really gave insight into like those little things that can cause like, what was the tone of that message? Or like that starts to go away when you realize how someone communicates and what their core values are all about. So I think those are great activities to do as a team, as a class, etc.
Absolutely. And then the other thing too is that, you know, as leaders, I see sometimes people who get frustrated with an employee, but they're not leading them based on what they are capable of doing, right? Like that might not be that assignment or that project or whatever may not be the best fit for them, or they can do it, but they're going to need certain supports and things to get there.
Yeah.
Right. Where someone else maybe would be better suited for just that particular project.
Yeah.
Right. Based on that. So just understanding that. So as leaders, you are actually leading your team to be successful and efficient based on how they operate.
Exactly.
Amen.
Aaron, can you help me out with that file again?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll send it to you. All right. So let me tell you about it while I'm getting him set up. So the famous sign, if you guys want to talk about a little bit in the locker room, says
Believe.
Yeah. And so what I thought would be really neat is to kind of play a little.
We're getting scores in the chat of who people are. I love it.
Oh, good. Yes. Oh, good. That's perfect. I love it. So what I thought it'd be fun is for us to look at some stems that I've created and fill in the blank of things that you believe. So I'm going to re-forward an email to Fred's while we pull that up.
We very much appreciate the fill in the blank version, as you saw in the book. What's interesting as an ELH teacher, I'm sure you know this to be true. If you go with that Mad Libs activity, like where they have to fill in the blank with nonsense first, it gets your editing brain to kick in. So your creative brain and your editing brain can now bring itself to the party. So this will be fun.
Good. You're speaking to my writing soul right there.
Excellent.
Yes, yeah, so I thought it'd be a lot of fun for us to kind of think about different things we believe in, and just another activity that you could do with your staff or your students. I think as an opportunity similar to the operating instructional manual to get to know each other, hear what their values are, what's important to them. So as he pulls that up,
Yeah,
I'm
I
nervous.
had it. I thought I had
know.
it. You know what? I think I did have it in there, but it's only showing those first 3 slides. So let's give
Okay.
me 1 second.
No problem.
I wasn't nervous when we first started
I
talking
wasn't
about it.
either.
Now it's
No.
starting to build up, and I'm like starting to sweat a little bit. And
Oh my gosh. That's good. That's good. Here it comes. Okay. So what I did was I created a couple of stems. So let's do the first one, Fred, if you'll go to the next slide.
Next slide. Okay.
Yep. And, feel free. Anyone can answer. Believe. So we're going to fill in what we think. So believe in yourself because. What would you say? Believe in yourself because, and you can say that for something maybe you just need to hear right now, or maybe it's just advice you'd give to other people, or just, whatever you believe. For me, when I read this, I think believe in yourself because at the end of the day, sometimes you're your
Biggest enemy.
best. Yeah, you're your worst enemy and also can be your best advocate. So if you don't believe in yourself, you're not gonna get as far as you want to be.
Well, I would say believe in yourself because I want to say something around like faking it till you make it works, right? Like sometimes you have to have the confidence to take the first step. And if you believe in yourself to take the first step, it will be the path to the future steps.
Yes. I like that one.
I knee jerked it as soon as I saw that. I went to 2 words. You can.
that's
Mm.
exactly
I
right.
like
was
it.
going.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, Fred. Nice.
That is
Yeah,
better.
I mean,
Yeah.
Nice.
I
and I
would
like
say
what you both
because,
said just now too. That makes sense.
yeah, I like you can. That was mine. I also the first thing that my first gut reaction is because you're worth it, right? I think
I like it.
you are worth it. You should think very highly of yourself, and you should expect a lot for yourself.
Yeah. I think this is partly a Brene Brown thing that she does it better than I will in some video stuff in my certification I got with her. But this was an aha moment for me where if someone needed to hear something in a heartbeat, I would tell them what they needed to hear to lift them up. But for some reason in my own brain, I don't give myself that same love.
No.
Right.
She
So
did talk about that. Yeah, that is excellent.
Yeah. All right. You want to do another one? See, not so scary.
Yes, let's do another
So
one.
That's so
far.
Okay. Next one. Believe in the power of kindness because.
Boy, my first thought is because the world needs a little more kindness.
Yeah,
And
amen.
Ted Lasso is evidence of that.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah, because community is key. Building the power of kindness is because you want to build your community, and having a healthy community is what makes everything happen.
You are Sam.
Yeah, you definitely are.
Believe in the power of kindness. I'd say because it's the one superpower we all have.
Yeah. I like that, Pete, because the thing in this stem is the word. It could say believe in kindness but it says the power of kindness.
Yeah.
And that changes it for me. So I like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, cool. You want to do another one?
Yeah.
Okay. Believe in the strength of community because, so Fred, this kind of tied into what you had said before.
My first thought is because there's power in numbers.
Yes.
That's the math major in me.
I like that. I like that though.
Because everything else is built upon a cornerstone.
Nice. I like that, Pete. Someone in here says it takes a village. That's right.
It does
Yes.
take a village.
Oh, yes, Holly. Oh, I love all these people in the chat.
Yeah. People move people.
Nice.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are good. Yeah, everyone's
They are good.
Really good. These are really good.
Try sticking a camera on them. It ain't so easy. So they got it going on.
Also I'd say as much as I'm cool with working independently and sometimes I need some downtime with myself, for the most part, for me, I do get my strength from community. I do find that when there's just something about when a bunch of people get together to either collaborate or work on something or just break bread or have fun that just reminds you that you're not alone in this world, right?
Well, I think on a teacher's pep rally, it is not always easy to give yourself the pep talk, right? You should, like our very first slide, right? You are valuable because you are. But also, it is great to have a crowd to hear pep talk.
Absolutely. And it's funny, Marnie, because you're right. Then that's exactly why we started doing this. Because when it was during COVID and we all felt like we were in panic mode on our own in front of a computer, it was the community that we tapped into immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
love
let's do
what
another
Tommy
one.
put. The many have insights beyond
Ready?
the few. That's amazing.
That is a good
Yeah,
one.
I like what Tommy said. The many have
Yeah,
insights beyond the
that's
few.
beautiful.
I like that. You ready for the next?
Yeah.
Here we go.
All right. Believe in the value of learning from mistakes because
Because pain purifies.
Oh, I was going to say growth comes from pain. Good.
Yeah, that's
Pain purifies. Wow.
That sounds like a
That's not
cauterism.
mine. I think that might be niche. Nietzsche. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's his either, but it comes as a derivative of that. What? No, it's the great it's a lyric from a song. I don't know if it's not Styx. It's Asia, isn't it? There's I don't know if it comes from American Indians, but true wisdom only comes from pain. That's what it is.
That's a pull.
It's dire.
I mean,
I mean, my entire growth and learning life has been from making mistakes. I mean, it's not a simple ending to that sentence, but I wholeheartedly believe in this. It's recognizing that it's a mistake and learning from it. I think I said it earlier with Onward Forward. It's the way you learn.
I think it also, in the Brene Brown conversation, it exposes vulnerability, which is important, right? You need the trust and the vulnerability to be able to grow. So I think, and it's not always easy. Certainly that has not been easy for me. It is, I would tell people very early on, oh, I'm going to be a math major because I like to know when I'm right. I don't like to be told wrong. So I had to do some work on this one. For sure.
Yeah.
Plus, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say, if you believe in the value of learning from mistakes, it almost motivates you to take chances and risks and embrace change, knowing that you may make a mistake and you'll learn from it.
Yeah, it becomes a mindset, I think, right? Like, okay, if I do stumble or fail, I'm going to enter into a growth mindset of this is a learning opportunity, right? And a lot of times I know for me, I mean, I don't like to fail, but I'm okay with it because I have seen how much I can grow or have learned. Probably more than I would have if I was successful the first time, right? Through that failure. I think you put it up there, Fred, but John Strickland says, because we are pros at them.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, but the author of The Disintegrating Student that we had on here talks about the lack of this, right? There's in the education space that we're not allowing students to make enough mistakes so they can be learning from it. I think we let them make mistakes, but
Dr. Janine Janelle, and even in parenting, and it wasn't that she was pointing fingers and saying parents are doing a horrible job, but she's like, even in our homes, we're not
letting them
creating that as a value of it's okay. We're actually teaching them in our actions that you can't make mistakes, or if you do, I'm going to fix it right away. I'm not going to give you time to kind of figure it out or feel bad for a little bit, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of, yeah. All right. I think there's only one more, so don't sweat
actually
it.
I think that is the last.
Oh, that was the last one? Okay, that
was
went
a
so
good one.
fast.
That was a good one to end on.
Fast. All right. Thanks for playing, everyone.
Excellent.
I like it. It reminds me, I think it was Daniel Pink put something about a recent research around how just grading an assessment for students is not nearly as powerful as letting them do something with the, he was asking, what do teachers do to help students grow when they have made a mistake? I know one of the strategies I used was to let them earn back some of their points if they could explain what they had gotten wrong. But I do think that, I don't know that it was breaking research, but he did quote a new article around like the value of being able to, work on yourself, in after a test, et cetera.
Yeah. Let's recover, right? Like I can't tell you how many students who were upset right off at the beginning of the year that they weren't getting all A's. And I was like, but if you were getting all A's right now, that means we're not.
Yeah, you're ready
stretching
for the, just go do the next thing. Yeah.
But it's an interesting conversation too. Like it reminds me of teaching or coaching little league or baseball to kids, and the one thing you would never do is correct someone's swing while they're in the batter's box.
Now it's not the time.
You just observe and you wait till after and you do the correction. But it goes back to something you opened up with, Aaron, and that was I can't remember exactly how you said it, but it was almost like that mindset that we get where we become complacent. So like as you're going through the school year or as you're going through the semester, and as we're talking about all these things, and that was a great idea about earning points back to correct, your mistakes.
Yeah, recover.
We sometimes don't try these things. And then at the end of the year, we'll be like, oh, I'll try that next year. I'll make a note and I'll apply that next year. And then you don't. And it's a tough balance sometimes to try to make these changes in there and to go forward with that. But I think it's important that we keep trying to
some
give it
of
a try.
Rules, the iteration, the stop, the keep noodling bit, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And the onward, all of it.
Yeah. Those are good rules to pick.
So I know that our listeners, our audience are going to want to know, first of all, where they can get the book and maybe even connect with both Marnie and Nick. So tell us, how can they find you? Where can they buy the book?
So the book, easiest is on Amazon for sure. So you can just search Lead It Like Lasso and it looks like that. Lead It Like Lasso, our website, it is leaditlikelasso.com. If you go there now on Monday, we're having a webinar with a gentleman who is a team builder who actually went to England for 3 years to coach a sport. He's very much Ted Lasso. People always call him Ted Lasso. So you'll find that when you pop up there. Fortunately, Nick and I have relatively unique names, so we're easy to find on LinkedIn as ourselves. And then we have all of the social media at Lead It Like Lasso. So TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn.
All of it. And like we mentioned, the leadership assessment we did, it is free on your website. Yes. So if anyone wants to go and take that for themselves, with their family, like I did, do it with staff, students, whatever. I say go for it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This has been such a pleasure, so much fun. Real quickly, Pete, where can our group continue to find us and have these conversations?
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Our website, teacherpeprally.com. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you're listening to us or watching us. Make sure you subscribe, give us a like, a follow, a review, anything to help, and let's keep the conversation going.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick and Marnie, for coming here. We really appreciate it, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm going to go back and rewatch the series again.
Thank y'all. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.